Hi, and welcome to Theater Talk. I'm your host, Kristen Garbarino. On tonight's program, we will be talking to Point Park University's Rep Theater Artistic Director Ronald Allan-Lindblom and guest director Robert A. Miller about their world premiere of The Umbrella Man. We will then talk exclusively to Mr. Allan-Lindblom about the remainder of the Rep season. We'll be right back. Now joining us is Ronald Allan-Lindblom, the founder and artistic director of The Rep, Point Park University's professional theater company. A multiple Dramalog Critics Award recipient, Ronald has produced, directed, and acted in over 500 productions on 3 continents and is published in Joan Chala's The Art of Production. This season will be his 13th with The Rep. With him is Robert A. Miller, who will be directing the Rep season opener, The Umbrella Man. Robert is an acclaimed Hollywood producer, director, and screenwriter, probably best known for producing the film version of his father's play, The Crucible, with Daniel Day-Lewis and Winona Ryder. Robert has produced TV commercials for products such as Coca-Cola, Visa, and McDonald's, and music videos for Huey Lewis, Lou Reed, and ZZ Top. At The Rep, he has previously directed A View from the Bridge, Ah Wilderness, and Death of a Salesman. Ronald and Robert, thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Thank you for having us.
When did you first meet, and how did you start collaborating?
Well, we first met here in Pittsburgh, what is it, about 12 years ago or 11
Must have
years
been
ago?
1999, I think.
Something like that, when Ron first came, and I was passing through we were finishing up. Well, we couldn't have been finishing up. We were doing something with The Crucible. I can't remember what it was. I had to go back to New York, and my friend who had just moved back here from California persuaded me to drop in on my way to or from, I can't remember, and introduced me to Ron, and we had some breakfast together, and it was sort of one of those instantly familiar faces, you know, where we just sort of walked out of breakfast and kept on walking.
And then when did you start directing plays at The Rep?
Back, what was it, 2000, I think?
The following season, Bob came in and directed Breaker Morant, was I think the first thing that Bob did. I think that was 2000.
I think so, because it was before I did Focus, and that
Right.
was the following summer.
And then was your next production A View from the Bridge?
Yes.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah. Yes,
Well,
it was.
Was this the first time you directed your father's play?
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was fun. It was actually very cool. I'd seen the play a lot, and certainly been around when it was being produced a lot of times, and you think you know a play, and I'd read it and stuff like that. But when you have to direct it, you really, really get to see how, in this case, how beautifully it's all kind of underpinned and put together. So yeah, I enjoyed it a lot, actually. I was real pleased with the production, and it really, and impressed with the level of craft and talent from actors down to, or not down to, but over to lighting designers and set designers, and top to bottom. So it turned out so well. I stuck
kept
around to
coming
do some
back.
more, right, exactly.
Was there any unique experience that you had directing your father's play that you don't have directing other playwrights' works?
Well, I guess they're all unique. I mean, each playwright is certainly, Eugene O'Neill's got, a lot to work with. But there is something a little bit special about it. I've, as I say, I've seen so many of his productions over the years from the time I was that high. And there's a voice that's very familiar to me in his work. I can pretty much hear having heard all these other productions, as well as, his phrasing and his sort of sensibilities and so on. So I feel perhaps a little bit more comfortable, because even on material that I haven't directed, there's a kind of familiarity to it, or stuff that I have not certainly even read every single one of his plays. There's a couple of one-acts that I didn't get to see, and some other stuff that was a little more experimental. But whenever I'm, looking at it or directing it, there's a certain, I have a certain kind of confidence that I kind of know what it wants to sound like. Don't know always how I'm going to get there, but that's kind of neat. That's kind of neat.
And now you will be directing a world premiere, which must be very different.
It's very different.
Ron, how did you discover this work, and what inspired you to produce it?
Actually, Bob discovered the work. This started out as a screenplay called The Umbrella Man that was sent to Bob, and they were actually trying to talk Bob into producing the film. And they also had some interest. They sent it to Bob and said, "Do you think there's a play in here?" So Bob sent me the screenplay. I read the screenplay and said, "Yeah, I do think there's something we can do with this." So I flew out to California. We met with, Bob and I met with the writers. And this is kind of a grand experiment. What we've decided to do is try to attempt to stage a screenplay. What would it be, instead of just doing a straight adaptation for the stage, what if we put a screenplay on the stage? What if we interacted with film? What would we create? So this is a very fluid, ongoing creative process that we're in the middle of, and we'll see what we turn up with by the end of it.
Will the rehearsal process change the script at all?
The rehearsal process it doesn't necessarily change the script, but it evolves the script, especially in a world premiere. You know, we've got the writers there who are in and out of the process, so as Bob develops with the actors in rehearsal, if they find something isn't quite working, or, you know, yeah, it's a constant evolution.
Bob, what is it like to direct a film, a screenplay?
Stage screenplay?
I mean, you have such a background with film, so
yeah,
I'm sure
I
it's
was
sort of
actually
second
sort
nature.
of maybe foolishly assuming that might help, and it does. But it's all sort of uncharted waters. Certainly for me, it's uncharted waters. And I think kind of, you know, to my knowledge, this has never been attempted on any level that I've ever heard about, where you're, as Ron pointed out, it's not adapting a screenplay to the stage, which has been done before, certainly. But trying to sort of marry the two, and Ron's used the term present tense film. Cinema. So we're kind of flying blind, and it's kind of exciting and a little terrifying. A lot of discovery that happens from that. You know, we're still in the early part of the process. So I'll have to let you know. I mean, I really, you know, I sort of have to keep an open mind about how and what's going on, because it's not sort of doesn't, you don't have the traditional kind of mileposts or the typical ones to gauge how you're doing or where you're at or how far you have to go. It's very creative, very inventive, and a little bit like the rep likes to say, certainly flying without a net would apply here.
What are some of the challenges you're facing right now? Are there multiple locations that you're going to have to portray on the stage?
Well, yeah, you know, film by its nature, it wants to move quickly. You know, there's short scenes, there's quick cuts, you get sort of, it sets up an energy, which a film audience, when we go to movies, we like to see that, we kind of come to expect that. If you look at movies, some of the movies that have been made some decades ago, they're much more, scenes have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and they play out in a more sort of theatrical fashion. Nowadays, and in general, the style and sort of the audience comes to expect more of what I just described, with kind of quick cuts. You know, you come into a middle scene, you leave before the end of it. They don't have the usual arc that scenes have had in film, and certainly almost always have in theater. So we're using all the devices we can to kind of make that clear, and I won't go into too much detail because we're not sure where it'll all end up exactly. But using the screen, which is on the stage and kind of shaped like a page, using sound effects, using some expository kind of information, and having these actors have to sort of, you know, shorten that arc by a lot. There isn't the usual sort of, you know, scene opens, the dialogue sort of has a climax to it, a resolution, or maybe not a resolution. And then it leads to the next scene, and we're kind of, you know, it's 6 months later, and then it's this, you know, it's inside, outside. So it's exciting. As I say, I'm not sure what that looks like, because I've never seen something like this before. So I'm not sure what this is going to look like. But
I think it's the difference between executing a play and creating a play. And, you know, for example, if we were doing an established play, if we were doing A View from the Bridge, that's a matter of interpretation and execution. This is a matter much more of creation and seeing what we end up with. So it makes the process a little interesting and a little more, yeah, as Bob said, terrifying for everyone.